Back in the early 20th century, new industries held tremendous power. Railroads dictated shipping terms. Alexander Graham Bell wanted to own every phone call in America, and RCA tried to hog the radio waves. The government actually stepped in to break up monopolies and regulate rates to make sure consumers had at least some protection against the rise of corporate America. For a while, the balance kind of worked. We had strong unions, robust public agencies, and most conflicts played out in actual courts instead of arbitrations in corporate back rooms. But then, well, the 1980s rolled around. Oh God, it's him again! The freaking Kimmy Gibbler of presidents. Ronald Reagan showed up and spun the very idea of government regulation as a bad thing. Public services got sold off to the private sector. Prisons, schools, even some of the damn firefighters. And along
And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village, it's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people.
And in some ways, he's spot on.
The book comes out August 24th and is an absolutely fascinating read into addiction and ways to treat various types of addiction. I've read the book cover to cover, and all I'll tell you is that at the very first chapter and throughout, you are going to be absolutely blown away. The stories about her patients are extremely engaging. It brings forward the real struggle of addiction and the incredible, I think it's fair to say, heroic battles that people fight in order to get through addictions of various kinds. And all of that is woven through with story, with science in ways that make it very accessible to anyone, whether or not you have a science background or not. I can't recommend it highly enough. So again, the book is Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. It comes out August 24th of this year, 2021. And you can pre-order that book by going to Amazon. We will provide a link to that in the show caption. Before we begin, I just want to mention that this podcast is separate from my teaching and
pediatricians are in favor of children going back to school. They didn't cite any research, by the way. They just made these claims. They said that some areas might have in-person school because the schools are more remote, whereas other areas might opt for having distance learning because of the town that they're in. They also said that kids do need to socialize and that kids are being traumatized by the isolation. They also said that we need to balance damage to children's psychologies with the potential deaths of children and others and teachers. They also said that we need to work together, not against each other. They also said we need to wear masks and keep our distance when possible, and that we need to put efforts into prevention so that we can return to a normal life earlier than later. Berto, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a straw man city. Straw man city. Do you remember UHF? Spatula City.
Something in and it feels good.
Are there any movies that you guys know are like critically they are great movies, but you can't watch because you associate it with a bad memory?
Yes. 100%.
And you know it off the top of your head?
No, I just know, I know the feeling, or I associate them with like times in my life when I was unhappy, and I don't want to go back and like revisit that.
It's kind of like when you're dating a Spanish person and then their old mother thinks you look like the devil or something, and so no matter what, you'll forever be be the devil. That family.
The closest that story comes is that woman that said that I have Jesus' eyes, which is the opposite of what you're describing.
Oh, no, I mean, that's a good thing. They did an entire episode of 30 Rock on this, which I know, at least you're rewatching. But timely.
It's rewatchable.
We're talking about movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jack Donaghy's too much like the bad guy.
Without sounding too much like a film school nerd. What?
You had dog hair on your face.
I'm not supposed to touch my face.
To say thank you, first and foremost, for being part of this community. The team here at the Diversio is now almost 30 people, and that's literally because you watch and you subscribe and you leave comments and you like the videos. That this show's been able to grow, and it's the greatest honor of my life to sit here with these incredible people and just selfishly ask them questions that I'm pondering over or worrying about in my life. But this is just the beginning for the Diversio. We've got big plans to scale this show to every corner of the world and to diversify our guest selection, and that's enabled by you, by a simple thing that you guys do, which is to watch. So if there's one thing you could do to help this show and to help us continue to do what we do, it's just to hit the subscribe button. If you like this show, if you like what we do here, if you watch these episodes, please just hit that subscribe button. It means the world. Let's get on with it. What do I need to know about you and your earliest years to...
And so after a year in Sweden, Akin was in desperate need of a loan. Unfortunately, the local bank refused to give it to him, and that's when his dark side overpowered him. No one was there to witness this, but the story goes that when Akin returned home, he took his gun, shot his dogs, and then himself. As for his 27-year-old widow, Franziska, she hardly spoke any Swedish, hadn't made any friends yet, and she was pregnant at the time, so she had 3 helpless children to feed and care for. Franziska was completely alone in the world, but she was a brave and energetic woman, and despite her grief, she took on the challenge of a lifetime and made a success of the farm. Her bills were paid, and her children were well fed and well educated. After decades of unrelenting perseverance, Franziska became a respected member of her community. Her 3 children were starting their own families, and in 1926, her favourite grandson was born, Ingvar Kamprad, the boy who would later go on to found IKEA and become one of the richest men in the world.
Secretary of Treasury Besant was going after China and Chairman Xi for starting a trade war. So this spin is so ridiculous. I mean, the U.S. started the trade war, not China. China's just counterattacking now by putting restrictions and bans on the export of certain critical materials, certain rare earths, and the technology that can be used to process these, because China controls these things. And people do not realize that, and I think Trump might realize this and come around after threatening China could shut down the Western world in about 6 to 9 months. I mean, shut it down. That's the end, baby. Of course, by cutting off all these critical materials.